Cowboys Nation, the conversation around Dallas is starting to heat up as the offseason approaches, and the spotlight is firmly on what this defense could look like when the next season kicks off. There's a growing sense that the front office understands the urgency of this moment. With the salary cap continuing to rise year after year, standing still is no longer an option. If this team wants to remain competitive in the conference, especially against opponents that continue to invest heavily on defense, calculated spending and smart roster construction are no longer luxuries, they are necessities. The defensive side of the ball is clearly where the most attention is being directed, and it starts with the edge position. Dallas cannot afford to enter another season thin at pass rusher, especially in a league where quarterbacks are getting the ball out faster and offenses are more creative than ever. There's a strong internal belief that continuity matters here, and bringing back a familiar presence on the edge makes a lot of sense. With several players already under contract, adding a proven veteran who understands a system would stabilize the rotation and prevent the unit from becoming dangerously shallow if injuries strike. Letting that kind of experience walk away early in free agency would raise serious concerns about depth and overall pass rush productivity. Beyond familiar faces, there's also a clear trend in the type of edge defenders Dallas is monitoring. Former early-round selections who have not yet fully reached their ceiling remain very attractive options. These are players who still have upside, have shown flashes at the professional level, and could benefit from a change of scenery or a more defined role. This approach allows the team to remain financially responsible while still betting on talent. None of these names fall into the category of contract-breaking superstars, but they represent realistic, affordable upgrades that could immediately improve pressure rates and rotational flexibility. The financial reality of free agency cannot be ignored, though. Even solid, non-elite edge defenders are commanding more money than in previous years. That is simply the market adjusting. Paying a yearly average that sits just below double digits in millions might feel uncomfortable when looking strictly at sack totals, but pressure, disruption, and scheme fit matter just as much. This is the price of doing business when you want capable starters and not just stopgap options. Dallas has to decide whether it wants to keep gambling on internal development or finally invest in proven production from outside the building. Linebacker is another area where the Cowboys can no longer afford to patch holes with short-term solutions. The current depth simply is not enough to survive a full season, especially against physical running teams and dynamic tight ends. There is an opportunity here to reshape the core of the defense by targeting linebackers who bring speed, range, and versatility. Reuniting players with familiar faces or systems is always appealing, and the idea of pairing athletic linebackers with a young, explosive defender already on the roster opens up exciting possibilities. This would allow the defense to disguise pressures, rotate responsibilities, and create mismatches that did not exist before. Of course, injuries and recent performance trends must be weighed carefully. Some of the linebackers available are coming off shortened seasons or statistical regression, but context matters. Team struggles, coaching changes, and role adjustments can heavily influence production. Evaluating whether a down year was an outlier or a warning sign is one of the most important tasks facing the front office. The goal is not just to add names, but to add players who can be counted on when the stakes are highest in December and January. The secondary also looms large in this discussion, particularly at corner and safety. While no flashy veteran corner names are being thrown around internally, there's an understanding that experience still has value, especially in situational roles. At safety, however, the interest is far more concrete. The defense has been crying out for a true difference maker on the back end, someone who can communicate, rotate, and erase mistakes before they turn into explosive plays. Investing real money at this position would signal a philosophical shift, one that acknowledges how critical safety play has become in modern defensive schemes. Historically, Dallas has been hesitant to spend above a certain threshold in free agency, especially on defensive players. The question now is whether that mindset finally changes. With the cap climbing and the roster at a crossroads, committing more than $5 million per year to the right defensive piece could be the difference between a good defense and a unit that can carry a team through difficult stretches of the season. It is a risk, but sometimes the greater risk is doing nothing at all. Looking toward the draft, the defensive blueprint becomes even clearer. There is strong interest in defensive backs and linebackers who bring intelligence, physicality, and versatility. Safeties who can play deep, rotate into the box, and hold up in coverage are especially valuable. Linebackers with the ability to flow sideline to sideline and contribute as pass rushers add another layer of complexity to the scheme. Corners with strong man coverage skills and the instincts to thrive in zone concepts are also firmly on the radar. Draft positioning will play a massive role in how this unfolds. There's always the possibility that top targets are off the board earlier than expected, forcing Dallas to adapt. Trading down remains a realistic option if value does not align with draft slot, and that flexibility could allow the team to accumulate more assets while still addressing key defensive needs. The emphasis is on finding players who can contribute immediately, not long-term projects that require years of development. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that this is a defining offseason for the Cowboys defense. The pieces are there, but they need to be supplemented intelligently. Balancing returning contributors with targeted additions through free agency and the draft will determine whether this unit takes a meaningful step forward or remains stuck in the middle of the pack. The decisions made over the next few months will shape not only the depth chart, but the identity of the defense moving forward, and that identity is still very much being written. As the conversation continues to unfold, the most intriguing part is how all these potential moves would come together on the field. A defense is not built by individual names alone, but by how those pieces complement one another snap after snap. Dallas already has a foundation of players who understand the demands of the scheme, and that familiarity provides a valuable starting point. The challenge now is elevating that base into something more dynamic, something that can adjust week to week depending on the opponent and still maintain consistency. Up front, the idea of pairing returning contributors with a newly added edge presence changes the entire complexion of the pass rush. Rotations become more effective, legs stay fresher late in games, and opposing offenses are forced to account for pressure from multiple angles. That kind of balance is critical, especially in close games where a single disrupted play can swing momentum. It also reduces the burden on any one player to be perfect, allowing each defender to focus on doing their job within the structure of the defense. At linebacker, the potential impact is even more pronounced. Adding athletic, instinctive players into the middle of the defense allows for far more creativity. Coverage disguises become easier to execute, blitz packages more unpredictable, and run fits more disciplined. When linebackers can flow quickly and communicate effectively, it lifts the entire unit. Suddenly, defensive backs are not left on islands as often, and the defensive line benefits from quicker reads behind them. This is where Dallas could see one of the biggest jumps if the right additions are made. The secondary, particularly the safety position, remains the emotional center of the discussion for many fans. For years, there has been a longing for a true stabilizing force on the back end, someone who can read the quarterback, direct traffic, and clean up mistakes before they become highlights for the opposing offense. A safety who fits that description does more than make tackles. He changes throwing windows, discourages risky passes, and gives corners the confidence to be aggressive at the line of scrimmage. That ripple effect is difficult to measure statistically, but it shows up clearly on film. Drafting with that vision in mind becomes crucial. A young defensive back who can step into a rotational role immediately and grow into a leader over time represents tremendous value. Likewise, adding a linebacker or edge defender early who can contribute on passing downs gives the coaching staff more tools to work with from day one. The goal is not just depth, but flexibility. Modern offenses thrive on exploiting mismatches, and the only way to counter that is with defenders who can wear multiple hats without sacrificing effectiveness. There's also an important mental aspect to all of this. A defense that knows help is coming, that trusts the man next to them, plays faster and more confidently. Hesitation disappears, angles improve, and tackling becomes more decisive. That confidence often separates good defenses from great ones, especially late in the season when injuries mount and games tighten. Dallas has experienced firsthand how fragile a defense can become when depth is tested, and that lesson appears to be shaping the current approach. Financial discipline still matters, but so does timing. The window to maximize the current core will not stay open forever. Smart investments now, even if they stretch comfort levels slightly, could pay dividends when it matters most. The key is avoiding panic moves while still being aggressive enough to address clear weaknesses. That balance is difficult, but is exactly what successful teams manage to strike year after year. As training camp approaches and roster battles begin to take shape, the true picture will start to emerge. Roles will be defined, chemistry will develop, and the coaching staff will begin molding these pieces into a cohesive unit. Some moves will look brilliant in hindsight, others less so, but the intent is clear. This defense is being built with adaptability in mind, prepared to face a wide range of offensive styles without losing its identity. The most encouraging part is that there is a sense of direction. Every potential addition, whether through free agency or the draft, appears to fit within a broader plan rather than serving as a temporary fix. That kind of clarity is essential when building a defense capable of competing deep into the season. The pieces are not final yet, and adjustments will undoubtedly be made along the way, but the blueprint suggests a unit that wants to be faster, smarter, and more resilient than it has been in recent years. Another layer to consider is how situational football could improve with these adjustments. Third downs, red zone snaps, and late-game defensive series have often been swing moment for Dallas, and that is where personnel flexibility truly shows its value. Having edge defenders who can win quickly, linebackers who can mirror running backs in space, and safeties who recognize route concepts early allows the defense to dictate terms instead of reacting. Those small advantages compound over the course of a game and can quietly flip outcomes without ever showing up as a headline statistic. There is also the question of leadership within the unit. Adding players who have already navigated high-pressure environments can accelerate growth for younger defenders still finding their voice. Communication pre-snap, alignment adjustments, and accountability after mistakes all improve when experienced players set the standard. That presence can be especially important during inevitable rough stretches of the season, when confidence wavers and the margin for error shrinks. A defense that stays connected mentally is far harder to break than one relying purely on talent. Finally, competition itself becomes a catalyst for improvement. When roles are not guaranteed and depth feels legitimate, practices become sharper and preparation more intense. Players push each other, details matter more, and complacency fades. That internal edge often translates directly to Sundays, where speed of recognition and effort make the difference between a stop and a long gain. If Dallas succeeds in creating that environment, the defense will not just look different on paper, it will feel different when the games truly start to matter. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Rumors are swirling around the Dallas Cowboys locker room as star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb reportedly voiced serious frustrations with the team's offensive strategy. Sources close to the situation claim Lamb is openly criticizing the conservative game plan implemented by offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer, calling it cowardly and suggesting it's holding both him and the team back from reaching their full potential. While insiders caution that emotions run high in the heat of a season, the whispers suggest that Lamb's dissatisfaction could extend beyond the playbook, potentially impacting his future with the franchise. The 25-year-old receiver has been one of the league's most electrifying talents, routinely putting defenses on their heels with a rare combination of speed, precision, and football IQ. But according to those familiar with the matter, he has grown increasingly frustrated with a system that, in his view, favors short passes and conservative calls over aggressive, high-risk/high-reward plays. He wants a win. He wants to challenge defenses. He feels the play calling isn't giving him the opportunities to do that, a source said. This friction has reportedly been simmering for weeks, and some believe it could influence Lamb's decision on contract negotiations, with hints that he may not be willing to commit long-term unless there are significant changes in offensive philosophy. While head coach Brian Schottenheimer is known for meticulous preparation and risk-averse strategies, Lamb's camp reportedly sees this approach as stifling the team's potential, particularly given the talent on the roster. Team insiders have hinted at tense meetings and heated discussions in practice, and whispers of possible trade scenarios have begun to circulate, though nothing concrete has emerged. For fans and analysts alike, the situation raises questions about the balance between coaching philosophy and star talent management, and whether the Cowboys can reconcile the differing visions before it reaches a breaking point. As of now, neither Lamb nor the Cowboys have issued official statements on the matter, leaving room for speculation and debate. The coming weeks could prove pivotal for the franchise, as decisions regarding offensive direction and player commitment may define not just the season, but the long-term future of one of the league's brightest young stars. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.